What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and now welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, you know it's something wrong with you. That's the case, hey, I don't know what to do. I done tried to help y'all out, girl. I have tried to give y'all remedies. Hopefully they're working. That's just not my business. Hey girl, y'all niece is back. Hey girl, did you eat? Hi pigs. So you always want to get up here and try to kiss me? Oh, you burping? I thought you burping in there, girl. Say excuse me. You can't lick off mommy's makeup. Hi, pretty girl. You gotta speak life into your children. Build them up. They might still turn out crazy like this one, but at least you know you tried. And I can sleep at night knowing I did. Hey, girl. Don't you start being ugly. Papa can come in here, girl. You only 3, girl. Papa got seniority. He is almost 8. You don't care. Get in. Papa, come here. Come here. Hi. Hi, my gracious big boy. Come here. Let the people see you. They haven't seen you in a minute. Hi, and say hello to the peoples. He has little ears back like Dobby right now. I feel like unless you follow me on Instagram, you haven't seen my big boy in a minute. Why is your face dirty? My big sweet boy. He's still the perfect angel baby he's always been. Hey, Papa. See, you want to get up here and take a nap. Each one of y'all, I give y'all an inch, y'all want to take a mile. There you go. Go lay down. Oh, child. I feel like my dogs just do too much, girl. Just entirely and all the time. But anywho, I hope you guys are doing well, and if not, you leave this video feeling a little bit better somehow than when you started, even given the nature of the content. Anyway, y'all, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, and apparently they are also eating the dates off of the apps. Okay, so y'all please be careful out there. And yeah, let's get into this crazy case. Christmas of 2019, 25-year-old Kevin Bacon is reported missing. Now, he had left home the night before on Christmas Eve to meet up with a guy that he had been chatting with on and off on a dating app called Grindr. Now, I know what y'all thinking, and yes, he was born in November of 1994. However, his father said he wanted them to have the same initials, but he didn't want a kid named Carl in 1994, so he named him Kevin instead. It made sense. He was not named after the actor. And the father said that the Kevin Bacon that we know wasn't even popping like that in 94 for him to have named his son after him, just in case there is some confusion there. It felt like shade, but nonetheless, Christmas Eve, Kevin Bacon tells his roommate, Michelle, that he'd be back later on that night, but he never returns home. And he is not answering his calls nor his texts. Now, initially, Michelle thought that maybe the night had gone differently than he anticipated. Maybe he decided to go ahead and spend the night. But the following morning, when Kevin does not show up for his family's traditional 9 a.m. Christmas breakfast, the roommate and the family are alarmed. His family, the roommate, and another friend of his, they go out and do a little searching for him themselves. And late that afternoon, they find his car parked in a shopping plaza. The doors are locked, but there is a grocery bag on the back seat containing different personal items that belong to Kevin. It also has his cell phone, his wallet. It's just very strange. All of this is very off. Now, in addition to reporting him missing and carrying out their own search for him, the family, the friends of his, the roommate, they all go out passing out flyers, hoping that somebody will recognize him and give some information that could possibly lead to his whereabouts. With the information that he had met up with someone he met off of a dating app, police are able to trace his recent online activity as well as access his Grindr account. And at the same time, they receive a message from a tipster who believes they know the person possibly responsible for his disappearance. The person says, quote, "I have an idea. There's a guy routinely on this app. He keeps having guys escape from his basement. The cops keep not pressing charges because the guys who escape admit that they had gone in consensually." This tipster also sends them a screenshot of this guy's profile, and the police recognize this man's name, Mark Latunski, immediately. It is not the first time that they had heard complaints of him. It's not the first time they had spoken with him, but just as the tipster had said, they had not pressed charges during any of the prior incidents. In October of 2019, just 2 months prior to Kevin Bacon's disappearance, James Carlson had called 911 immediately after escaping 50-year-old Mark Latunski's basement. During this 911 call and in between breaths, James says, "I met this guy. I went over to his house." He tells the operator that they had a soda, and next thing he knows, he is waking up and he is chained up in this man's basement. Now, James and Mark have begun chatting back in July July and had been talking for 3 months before meeting in person in October. And the two of them shared a common interest in the act of cannibalism. Quote, I would need to make sure my technique was perfect, pain-free, and bloodless before I did you. I know that if the pig is afraid, the meat is tough and the blood must be let out to have meat that is tender, is a message that Mark sent James back on July 29th via Grindr. Now, James' interest in the subject was centered around being eaten. That's the role he wanted to play. And it was just that, according to him, role play. And so they often talk about him being eaten by Mark. And immediately after he had started this back and forth ongoing dialogue with James, he began working on a secret basement kill room, complete with a cage, thick metal chains that he could string something up or tie and chain to the floor. It had an insulated door that was 4 inches thick and this big barnyard or barn style sliding wooden door that hid the entrance of the basement. Now, after talking about this for months, fantasizing about it and saying what they were going to do to each other as far as this eat and be eaten, they decide to finally meet up. But when Mark gets him there, James realizes how real things were and how serious Mark was about this. That it wasn't like a role play thing. It was like a, no, I want to eat you for real kind of thing. He accepted a drink from him that must have had something in it, because next thing he knows, he wakes up and Mark had him tied up. When he asked to be untied, Mark refused to untie him. Luckily, he had been able to cut a leather strap that bound his wrist to the chain, and he was able to get himself free. Now, armed with the blade that he used to cut the leather strap, James threatens Mark to stay back while he steals Mark's car keys and makes a run for it. Now, he didn't actually take Mark's car. He just didn't want Mark to be able to jump in his car and chase him down the road and just kidnap him up the street. Physically, James was confident that he could outrun Mark. Officers did respond to this 911 call. They come out to where James was. They take down a statement from him. He says the officers gave him a ride to a gas station, left him there to figure out how to get home, and they never followed up with him after the fact. And despite how terrified James says he was after this ordeal, he does continue communicating with Mark over the phone. Now, 6 weeks after James's escape, on the evening of November 25th, police received another 911 call, this time from a 29-year-old young man claiming to have just run out of the exact same house. Now, on his call, he says, quote, I'm trying to get away from some creepy guy. He had me tied up in his basement. He's after me. Now, this guy ends up running to one of Mark's neighbors, still on the phone with dispatch, because he needs the address. He has no idea what the address is. He's banging on the neighbor's door, begging them to just give him their address. They let him come in to wait for police there. And a couple minutes later, Mark pulls up in his car to the neighbor's house looking for the man. Now, a little while later, the state trooper arrives to the neighbor's house and gets the statement from this young man. They go and speak with Mark to get his account of what's going on. Mark tells them that the two of them met on an app for a consensual adult exchange, and that he was only chasing the man because the man had on his leather kilt. The kilt was expensive because it was real leather, and he wanted his kilt back. Now, the man did have on Mark's kilt, but Mark had put the kilt on him while he was passed out. And Mark actually had on the kilt that matched it while talking to the police. He had shown up to the neighbor's house looking for this man with that kilt on, belts across his chest, no shoes, no socks, no shirt, and a few braids in his beard. This is a lot to have put on that neighbor all at once, if you think about it. Imagine somebody coming to your door with all of that. And apparently it was a lot for the police as well. They said they didn't know what to think of it, and ultimately they don't end up doing anything about it. Now, after everything unfolded, the state police did issue a statement regarding them not pursuing each of these instances. They said that in both situations, both men declined to press charges, and they believe that the men might have been hiding their lifestyle, so they just respected their privacy. But both men have denied that and said that they both felt like police just didn't care. They was treating it like gay business wasn't their business, and they just never went after Mark. Now, Mark Latunski, a former chemist and family man, is officially made a person of interest in the disappearance of Kevin Bacon. Now, Mark had left led a pretty average, normal life up into a recent point. He grew up in the South raising cattle with his family and participating in different competitions and shows. He was a well-behaved kid. He did well in school. He was smart. He graduated valedictorian of his class in 1987, and he'd always been really interested in science. So after high school, he decided to leave his small town and enroll into Michigan University, where he got his bachelor's in chemistry and graduated in 1991. He then enrolled in Iowa State to further his education. He gets his master's degree in physical and organic chemistry, and he graduated there in 1995. But by that point, he had had enough of the big world and decided to come back to his hometown. He gets a job working as a research chemist for a manufacturer of commercial printer inks. And dating really hadn't interested him at all up until that point. He actually remained single into his 30s when a friend of his feels like Mark needs somebody to hold at night. And this friend actually has another friend that they believe Mark would be a good fit to. They set up a date, and the friend, this mutual friend of theirs, actually proved to be right because the two of them really like each other. That first date to go get Chinese food blossoms into a full-on relationship. And after a year of dating, the two of them decided to go ahead and tie the knot. They get married, and they also purchased a nice little home to start a family. By 2003, the now 34-year-old Mark is expecting the first of 4 children he and his wife Emily will have together. The family had a nice little bit of land, about 5 acres, where they raise chickens, they raise ducks, goats, rabbits, do a little bit of gardening, and it's just a really cute, fulfilling southern life. They also take their children on trips to travel and see other parts of the world. They take them to Disney World, things like that. Life was really good for the Latunskis, and Mark was well respected, well liked, and successful. Now, according to Emily, she said Mark was always a little bit awkward, but she really liked him a lot anyway. She says, quote, "He was considerate and kind. He was very gentle. I fell in love with that side of him." She said he was a great father. He was a great husband. It wasn't until a couple of weeks after the birth of their 4th child in 2010 that Emily noticed and felt that something seemed different about her husband. All the time now, he's saying things that just don't make any sense. He becomes paranoid, overly protective, overly consumed with conspiracies. Mark began to question whether or not he was really his mother's son. And then he just decided that he believed he wasn't his mother's son, but instead her brother. And he tried to get Emily to believe that the family was hiding this from him because there was an inheritance that he was set to get and they didn't want him to have it. They were trying to intercept it. And he would tell Emily that he had to do all the right things and say all the right things at all times in order to secure this inheritance. Now, Emily had tried to get her man to talk to a medical professional, and he does. He complies with her wishes. He is diagnosed with schizophrenia and presented with a treatment plan, but he only follows this treatment plan for a couple of weeks before deciding that he no longer wanted to. And then he comes clean and admits to Emily that a lot of the times when he said he was working late, he'd actually been cheating on her and meeting up with men that he had met online for a wild night of pleasure. And this blindsided her because she never questioned his work hours with him being a chemist. Like, it sounded right to her that he would probably work long hours. I can see that. Honestly, I think I would have felt the same way because that just sounds like you might be working late. Even with this, she is still interested in making her marriage work, turning it around if they can, and the two of them go into couples counseling. They also began sleeping in separate bedrooms for the time being. But unfortunately, Mark just continues to spiral downward as far as his mental health. He accuses Emily of being a part of this conspiracy run by the overseers of this made-up inheritance that he believed exists. And so couples therapy did not work because he truly believed that she was working against him. Twice in 2012, he has a short stint in a psychiatric facility, and then once more in 2013. But Mark just refuses to be consistent with his treatment, so neither of these trips really help. And his marriage to Emily folds under the final straw when he reports her to CPS, Child Protective Services, saying that she neglects the children and that she was unfit. That was the final straw for Emily. She and her children pack up their things, they move out of the home, and Emily officially files for divorce after 11 years of marriage. She really can't say she tried. Now, against Emily's wishes, the courts grant him unsupervised visitation with the children. And after a visit in 2013, they meet up. She gives him the children, as she has been court ordered to do. But when it is time for them to meet up again so the kids can be returned home, Mark is nowhere to be found. He is not answering his phone. Finally, he tells her he is not bringing the children back. So she has to get the police involved. And when they find Mark and the kids, they down to the amusement park. Mark is arrested on felony kidnapping charges. The case is eventually dismissed after a court-ordered competency evaluation finds him mentally incompetent to stand trial in 2014. And for the next 4 years, he is not allowed to see the kids. His mental state does begin to impact his job as well. He had been paranoid about a lot of things at work, believing that a lot of them were conspiring against him. Everybody was out to get him. And in 2015, he actually remarries. This is him and his new partner, Jamie Arnold. And Jamie has said, quote, he was progressively saying stranger and stranger things, like the neighbors were polluting our water supply. They were all nonsensical. All I knew was that I had to get out of the situation. February of 2019, after working as a chemist and lab manager for 12 years, Mark's manager feels like he is giving him as much grace as he possibly could, and he is fresh out, and Mark is fired. And Jamie, too, now having been married to Mark for 4 years, comes to his breaking point, leaving Mark and moving out of the house in September of 2019. Now, this does overlap him talking to James Carlson, because they started talking in the summer of 2019. After his husband leaves, Mark tries to work odd jobs doing different like handiwork around the neighborhood, but that isn't working for him. It's not bringing in a steady flow of income, so he resorts to selling his body under the alias Wilk Olikos Vilkas. I don't get it. I don't know if I'm saying it wrong or right. I don't know if that's something freaky. If it's some freaks out there that can like decode it in the comments, please. I'm not nasty like y'all. I'm pure, so I don't understand what that name is, but I feel like it might be something there, something to it. Meanwhile, he continues prowling dating sites just as he had in the past, but this time with something a bit more sinister in mind. Okay, disclaimer. If I did not feel like the details of their conversation were not relevant, I wouldn't get into them this detail, but unfortunately they are, because his defense tried to spin it. When they go into Kevin Bacon's Grindr account and look at his messages, they see that the last person that he had been talking with was in fact Mark. December 23rd is when Mark either sent his first message to Kevin, or that's the first day that Kevin noticed the message from Mark and responded. He tells Mark that a fantasy of his is being with multiple strangers, being tied up, so he's at a quote complete loss of control. What, girl? You shouldn't even be hearing this conversation. Yo, you only 3? Oh, my goodness. Don't see, look at you. Fella, just please be still. Just be still and listen. You all in grown folks' conversation. Be quiet. He's a pretty cute. You're pretty cute. Mark tells him that he can make that happen and describes a role play scenario where he would take Kevin naked and blindfolded and deliver him to a group of men for their pleasure. He then tells Kevin that in order for the fantasy to be truly fulfilled, he must induce a fight or flight response. Now, Kevin responds to Mark with, right, I need to be basically helpless, so I'd feel terrified. Mark again confirms that he'd be blindfolded, taken to these men, and then he would pick him back up, and then he'd be transported back to Mark's house, and of course allowed to go home after. Now, Kevin then asks, now just one question. You are going to keep me safe, right? And Mark replies with, I'll show you how I'm going to transport you and let you determine if I'm trustworthy. And to that, Kevin says, hopping in the shower and I'll be ready. Now, in the meantime, okay, all right. Mark makes 56 internet searches about razor sharp knives. The two of them agreed to meet up near Dollar Tree in the shopping plaza where Kevin's car was later found. And the point at which they meet, the fantasy was supposed to begin. So Kevin removes all of his clothing and Mark presents to him several different devices and restraints for him to choose from. Kevin puts on earmuffs, blinders, leather wrist and ankle straps, and Mark gives him a blanket to cover up with in the meantime. Mark then takes a grocery bag, collects all of Kevin's cards, his identification, the clothing that he had taken off, his money, and his cell phone. Kevin asks, can he send a message right quick on his phone. At 6:12 p.m., Michelle, the roommate, had received a text message saying, quote, "I'm gonna be out for a while actually. This is gonna be fun. He's inviting more men. Merry Dickmas. I'm not sure when I'll be back. Probably will be out late, so if mom calls you, I'm sleeping. Haha." He then hands his phone over to Mark to go inside of the grocery bag, and then Mark puts the bag on Kevin's back seat, closes the door, locks it. When Mark reaches his home, he leads Kevin to the inside of the house. He's saying that there are a group of men waiting for him that he is delivering Kevin to. Takes Kevin down to the basement/kill room. The two of them engage in an adult exchange. And afterward, Mark grabs a hunting knife that he had purchased at Walmart just a couple of hours earlier and plunges it into Kevin's neck. Then he takes it across his throat. He then moves Kevin so he can, quote, turn him into something that would produce life. He ties rope around Kevin's ankles and pulls the rope up through the chain and pulleys that he's installed on the ceiling so that Kevin is just suspended in the air upside down. He then removes Kevin's cojones, his huevos, and sautés them in an iron skillet. At 2:15 a.m. on Christmas morning, Mark texts James Carlson, the first guy that called 911 running from his house that he's continued to talk to all these months, and confesses what he's done. He says, "I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero." He then sent a photo of what James thought at the time was just simply food cooking in a pan. And the term heroes, I know that probably sounds odd to us who were not familiar with it, but it is a term that refers to the eaten in the scenario, the person that is being consumed. James responded to the message with, "I hope you enjoy them. Can I see more pics of my room?" Referring to the kill room. But after sending his message, Mark just sat there at the table and ate what he cooked. And for the next couple days, Kevin just remains there suspended in the air. On the evening of December 27th, now that their tip has been called in and they recall all these instances, they arrive at Mark's Michigan home to ask him some questions. He answers the door in his leather kilt. He is completely calm and he welcomes them inside. When they ask if they can look around a bit, he grants them permission to, as if he has not a thing to hide. And the large wooden barn door that is stained with something dark and brown, of course, grabs their attention. Kevin is, of course, suspended right behind this door. And as they reach for it, Mark has absolutely no reaction. Not even when they pull it back and reveal the horrific scene behind it. He just very casually tells them exactly what had transpired. After reading him his rights, they take him down to the station to question him further. He goes into even more detail, telling them that he'd hoped to use the blood and bones to fertilize his plants. Now don't y'all start with me. Not today. I'm giving you this content. Do not start with me, girl. I'll tussle with y'all in the comments. Y'all my girls or whatever. It's like when you get into a fight with your cousin, y'all just get up and dust off the knees unless you in the mood to dust off your knees and your back. He also tells them how he had plans of using all of the muscle mass to make jerky, and he had already purchased the dehydrator. The U.S. Postal Service ended up intercepting the package because in the next day or so, the dehydrator for that was going to arrive to his home. Now, initially, Mark claimed that Kevin had asked for this to happen. He had asked to be eaten. He wanted to end his life and he wanted to go out this way. He figured it was 100% consensual and Kevin just no longer had the desire or will to live, and he wanted it to look like he had simply disappeared. Now, Mark doesn't deny any of the things that he had done. He just defends his actions, claiming that this was something Kevin wanted. The prosecutors, Kevin's family, even the judge, they all expressed having a hard time believing that. His family in particular says that he had just gotten a new job, that things were looking really good for him. He was on the way up, and they just don't believe that in this point in his life he would have done something like this. And Mark's attorneys cite an incident a year prior where Kevin's mother had reported to the police that her son had disappeared, but he had actually made an attempt on his life and had reportedly done a stint in a psychiatric hospital in late November of 2019 and was released December 2nd of 2019, just a couple weeks before he had met up with Mark. And so Mark's attorneys request to have him charged with assisted suicide instead was denied. In January of 2020, he and his lawyer decided to just enter an insanity plea. And the following month, a judge ruled that he was incapable of standing trial. He wasn't all there. He wasn't dealing with a full deck. But then in October, the courts ended up reversing the decision and basically said, on second thought, throw him up there. Let's try him. This time around, he decided to just go ahead and enter a guilty plea. And on December 15th of 2022, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, he down there Gus Harrison Correctional Facility in Adrian, Michigan, if y'all want to write him a little nasty, mean letter. But I guess the upside to this is that that particular prison does provide mental health programs, so he's in one of those. Now, as for Emily and her children, their children, she says that she reminds them and tries to teach them that mental health changed their father, but it doesn't change the love that he did have for them. She says, quote, "This is not who their dad was. He absolutely loved them. The person he was then would be horrified at the person he is now, and I make sure that they know it's okay to still love him because that's who they knew. He was their dad." However, they still carry a lot of shame, the kids do. She mentioned that their son didn't want to wear like his varsity jacket because it has that last name on it, and the town ain't but so big, like everybody knows. Unfortunately, this incident has also left a horrible stain on Christmas for Kevin's family. Completely changes how the holidays feel for them, which is very sad. The house that Mark lived in, it ended up being put up for auction, and it sold just 2 months after his arrest. And that buyer, Alex Deal, he said that the house had not been cleaned, not properly. He paid just over $100,000 for it and was moved in by the end of March. Now, he claims to have found 3 sets of dishes stuffed in the dishwasher, but it had not been turned on, so the dishes were still dirty. And he says they had remains on them that had been sitting in there for 2 months, and he had to clean. That's what he said. He owned the home for just 5 months before the Latunski family was able to regain possession of it through the court system. And I'm not sure who the relative was, but somebody did. And apparently nobody has an issue sleeping in the house. The guy that bought it, he said that he would have continued to live in the house forever because he bought the object, not the subject, and that houses don't kill people. And he said in his eyes, Mark just bought his crime scene back. And I mean, he not wrong. When you look at it like that, that's kind of sick. But like I said, I don't know who. It could be his kids trying to get the house. I don't know. And I just feel like in that little instance there, like I could see the kids, get in the house. Let me know your thoughts down below. Comment, please. Let me know what you think. I feel like, I gotta say it, it's on my heart. Blue, you better not be throwing up in that corner because I hear you doing some strange things. I feel like James Carlson, that girl is not giving innocent. I'm so sorry about it. I hate to say it. I hope I don't sound ridiculous, but he said that when he received the text message from Mark saying that he had done this with the picture, he didn't believe it. He thought Mark was lying. And it was sarcasm when he said, "I hope you enjoy them. Can I see more pictures of my room?" He did say he believed that Mark was building that room for him and for them to act out fantasies, but it's like, he had you tied up and wouldn't let you loose. So it's just some inconsistencies with that one person's version of events and that person's reality or their truth. Something don't sound right with that, but let me know your thoughts down below. Those are my thoughts. I think they might have been in this together. Cahoots. I just feel like if y'all both got this little thing y'all into, y'all had a situation where you found out that he was like for real about it, wanting to devour you for real, eat you off the bone, you had to cut yourself loose and escape and outrun him, and then he sends you a picture and say he did it successfully to somebody else, and you just thought it was for fake, for fun. I don't believe it. Sell it to somebody else. And that's all I have to say. Like the video before you leave. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your valuable time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. We ain't doing that. Now if I close the door, y'all gonna act like I'm doing something wrong to you. Y'all, Blue out there barking at something. Let me tell you something. They was just up here in my face. I was just holding them, giving them love. Y'all saw. Bella goes downstairs. She wants to get out. They just ate. I'm thinking she got a potty, right? Blue refused to go outside, and now Bella is refusing to come back inside. Right when I gather my things to come back up here and finish talking to y'all, Blue asked to go outside. I left them outside. They pottied. I asked them both, "Do you want to come back? You want to come in?" Both of them looking at me like, "Girl, no." Now they down there running amok, barking at the neighbors. And immediately after in the disappearance of Kevin Bacon, in physical and organic, well, it ain't no M in organic. Okay, and he might be a good fit for him. Okay, no. Now you back. You back again. I'm just gonna ignore you, because I can do that. It's my house. Now, Emily had tried to get her man to talk to a medical professional, one other than himself. Wait, a chemist is not a medical professional. Yikes. Control-Alt-Delete, baby. That's what that's for. He is diagnosed but he only follows his treatment plan for a couple of weeks before completely. And his marriage to end in what? She and her husband moved out of the home. Now her husband, girl, she leaving the husband with the kids. And she officially files for divorce after 11 long, and she officially, believing that a lot of them were working it. Now Mark, okay, please. Oh my sweet, okay, you're doing too much. Just keep your little head down, okay? It's just so freaking cute. Just be still. There we go. We got comfort. We comfortable now. We got this. Yeah, God got you. The two of them agreed to meet at, God, it made me forget what the people mean. When they ask if they can look around a bit. Dang, Blue. But anywho, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down below.